Good evening and welcome to the show. It's finally All Hallows Eve, which conveniently this year falls on a Thursday, which is my filming day, so this is doubly apropos. Last December I showcased an old VHS tape that I used to watch as a kid that was all about the observance of Hanukkah. And the end of the tape told us about an entire line of tapes for a bunch of different occasions and topics. But I don't know if I want to spend a lot of money on a VHS tape that I'll only watch once. I mean, heck, I only had the Hanukkah tape because it's my copy from when I was a kid. But, just like the Hanukkah one was on YouTube,
there is another.
And it just so happens to be themed for Halloween. I literally have no idea what to expect since I've never seen this before, and there's just as little history about the tape as there was for the Hanukkah one. In fact, the history is exactly the same, so go watch that video for the backstory. Let's take a look, shall we? The tape opens up the same as the last one, with the same "What's on?" and intro, so I won't repeat myself here with the comments from the last video, because there's no reason to. Oh shit. The notable exception is the end bit, which instead of a mispronunciation of spooky, we get a haunted house backdrop and KJ in a ghost costume whooshing by before The opening is also very different, featuring KJ in some sort of command center that looks nothing like the house set, with either a different voice actor or the same voice actor doing a different voice, getting spooked by the viewer.
Oh, it's only you guys. You shouldn't sneak up on somebody like that. You could scare them.
And instead of getting some explanation about Halloween or the traditions, which I'd frankly be very interested in, we just jump right into the first story, which is less of a story and more like an episode of Sesame Street where they explain a concept with kids talking about what scares them.
What is scary? What is scary?
Their answers are fairly predictable: the dark, nightmares, lightning, until we get to this kid.
My neighbor's dog scares me.
Which is just blatant anti-dog propaganda. Here, let me demonstrate that dogs are nothing to be afraid of.
See, a completely harmless...
I think bugs are creepy.
Objection, Your Honor. The question was about things that are scary, not creepy. They didn't answer the question. And then the kids start insulting their family members.
My mom's really frightening when she's in curlers. My grandmother looks like a frog. Very frightening. My big brother looks like a monster. My dad's mustache is scary.
Well, that's just uncalled for.
You know what's the scariest? When my mom yells.
Jenny Deere, that's it for TV!
I'm not entirely sure if that's funny or if I should be concerned for that girl's welfare. It then transitions into a short film called It's a Snork, featuring a young girl drawing a creature on the sidewalk in chalk and being abandoned by the other kids because the creature, a snork, isn't real, for some reason.
That's dumb. There's no such thing as a snork. You made it up. It looks like a pizza pie.
What kind of pizza is this kid eating? The girl is dejected and asks her dad, Discount Judge Reinhold, for a pet, wanting something big and scary like a bear or a lion.
People don't have wild animals for pets.
Something tells me this guy's never been to Florida. She goes wandering in the woods, because kids just sort of did that in the 90s, and runs into a snork, which she runs away from. She escapes and observes him, realizing that
He's a snork. They're real.
They do exist.
she sets a trap for it, set to a song dedicated to the snork, and gets dragged through the forest, disrupting a picnic.
Way to go, buddy. It took us 3 days to make that potato salad. 3 days!
To give this kid credit, she manages to keep her grip the entire time, but the snork ends up shaking her. She does her research and makes bigger and bigger traps that the snork manages to outsmart. You just know that family is thinking, what is this white nonsense? At this point, I'm surprised that neither of those families have called animal control, but the girl keeps up her pursuit and eventually tricks it into her closet and traps it there.
You can have some nice crunchy leaves if you promise to be good. Promise?
Rah, screw you! She gives the snork her terms, and he agrees to them. For some reason. She invites the other kids over and scares the crap out of them because, let's face it, they deserve it, until that asshole kid confronts her. God, I hope the Snork eats that little shit. Is that bad to think? The Snork can't roar, and so the asshole kid is unimpressed, despite the fact that you said it didn't exist. Doesn't the mere existence of the creature warrant some sort of shock? This kid's worse than Hammond and Wu in the Jurassic Park book, who thought the dinosaurs should be slowed down for the sake of public acceptance. The Snork wasn't meant to be kept in captivity, so the girl is forced to release it into the wild, where it can roam with all the other Snorks. But that doesn't mean they can't still be friends. My Snork and Me, Fridays on NBC.
Nothing scares me. I've never been spooked by anything. Ha ha ha. Boo! Ah!
We jump back to KJ and his friend Sally, who must be from Canada, given her facial structure. She invites KJ to listen to some new tunes, transitioning to a song called Mr. Boogie, where a man with dread sings a song about the boogeyman to a group of kids with the worst rhythm I've ever seen. And I'm so white, I can't even clap in time. How I made it through 7 years of band class is beyond me. It's not a bad song, and it's actually pretty catchy despite the flaws. The next segment is Spooky Dreams, with some Terry Gilliam-esque animation facilitating a story about a girl who sees scary things in her room that end up being benign, normal things when the lights are on. So evidently the tape has confusion over what tales and tunes are, because that was one song and a story, and the first segment had a story with songs in it, but preceded by an unscripted segment with no narrative. Sally has to leave, and KJ plans to scare the pants off of her when she gets back, before he gets a notification from the Tales and Tunes satellite, which is apparently a thing, and sends us into the next segment, a monster news show.
Good evening, boys and ghouls.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad joke, and I would know. And what kind of name is Frank anyway for a monster? I bet his parents wanted him to be a dentist. The first story is about a robbery at a blood bank, reported on Naturally by Dracula. It shouldn't surprise you that the eyewitness immediately pegs Dracula for the crime. Does that count as racial profiling? And does Dracula attacking her count as witness tampering? Back to Frankenstein, he passes over the talk to the mummy, who does the sports report. Honestly, that's more coherent than a lot of sports reporters I've seen.
You gotta calm down, Mum. Maybe you should switch to a decaffeinated coffee.
That joke doesn't even make sense. Mummies live in sarcophaguses. On to weather with the Bride of Frankenstein, and don't even try to convince me that nepotism didn't get her that job.
You know what they say, Frank. Ghouls just want to have fun.
Can't figure out why they're together. Of course, it's full of the classic Munsters Addams Family bad for humans means good for monsters opposite jokes. Thankfully, that's the end, and we jump back to KJ wearing his ghost costume. KJ's mom comes home.
I'm fixing a big dinner. Liver and onions.
Oh, yuck!
I've eaten a river of liver and an ocean of fish. I've eaten so much fish, I'm ready to grow gills. I've eaten so much liver, I can only make love if I'm smothered in bacon and onions.
KJ checks for Sally, and we go into another song about a little girl waking up called Monsters in the Morning. But of course, all the monsters are just her family. Again, I feel like this is just really insulting to them. What would have really sold this would be if at the end the girl pulled off her face to reveal that she was actually a monster, but unfortunately we're not that lucky. KJ waits for Sally and sets the mood, making it so spooky and dark that KJ himself is scared when Sally walks in. As KJ and Sally argue about whether or not she scared him, we go to another song, this time about goblins.
Ew, I like them. I like goblins.
Again, in what seems like a huge missed opportunity, the goblins are actually kids in skeleton costumes. Couldn't license spooky, scary skeletons? Back at base, KJ tries again to scare Sally.
Sally! Why don't you have dinner with us tonight? It's gonna be real delicious.
Sure, what are you having?
Liver and onions.
Wait, did you say liver and onions? My favorite!
Gets them every time.
And so ends the tape with the credits, which tells us that the guy in dreads from before's real name is Chic Street Man. I don't have a joke for that, that's just a really cool name. After Hanukkah Tales and Tunes, I expected something of a similar quality, and this was a huge letdown. Little to no KJ, and the Tales and Tunes segments were sort of boring. I admit I'm not the target audience, and I don't have nostalgia for this one since it's new to me, but come on, the Hanukkah one is objectively better, right? But, like I said, I'm not the target audience for the tape. Let's check out the sole Amazon review for the tape from the ancient year of 2003, a full decade after the tape was released. Was hoping for a Halloween tape for my toddler. The second half was more what I thought it would be, but the first half had almost nothing to do with spooky. A lot of it was aimed at not being scared of things. The music was pretty annoying. Are there any kids' tapes that don't have annoying music? Not to date this video, but I still occasionally hear that juvenile Great White song that I won't name because I don't want it stuck in all our heads for the next month. And that one's super annoying. There was also a scene where a parent asked the child to explain the weird noises they heard coming from her room. She's got a monster friend hidden in the closet. The girl very glibly and without hesitation lies to her parents. That's the end of it. No consequences or anything about it being bad to lie. I don't really like that message being sent to my kids. Okay, first of all, calm down, lady, it's just a VHS tape. And second of all, you don't like that message, but you wanted the tape to actively try to terrify your kid? Or did I misunderstand your dissatisfaction with the lack of spooky in the first half? I'm not criticizing your parenting, but priorities. I'm glad I bought this used and didn't spend very much on it. And I'm glad I didn't pay for it at all because YouTube exists now. Despite disagreeing with a lot of the words in that review, the spirit is the same. It doesn't live up to the reputation of Hanukkah Tales and Tunes, and definitely won't be making it into my yearly Halloween viewing rotation. I'll stick to the clearly superior children's Halloween tape, Disney's sing-along songs, Happy Hauntings at Disneyland. That one's got Superman and spooky scary skeletons. No, seriously, the dark-haired older boy is Tyler Hoechlin, who plays Superman on the CW Supergirl show. Anyway, happy Halloween and come back next time.